Begin Simin Kuf Tzadi Hey Harchakos. The Hakdama to Harchakos are you could spend forever on Harchakos. Why? You all flew through to Siv Zayin, and then you realize that you have lots of pieces of the puzzle, but you don't have any actual real life cases because, tachlis, okay, so no schayk v'kalas reish, but can you play chess together, So you can't touch her, but can you go swimming together with your kids? What? Yeah, can you go swimming together with your kids? And there's an unlimited amount of cases. So I'm going to try. I'm going to try to make things clearer and not less clear. That's the Hakdama. That's the Hakdama. And the probably the most important thing of today is going to be Ramosha. The Ramosha that you guys saw, everyone else could see it as well, is multiple Ramoshas which quantify what is this Hergel Aveira that we're concerned about. Because everything we keep on saying is, you can't do this because of Hergel Aveira. You can't do this because of, this. So what is that Hergel Aveira and what is it not? That's a very important detail that we're going to get to in a moment from Ramosha. But just to give a quick background, even though everyone saw all of this, everything begins with the Avos de Rav Nassim, which again, without even reading it together, you all read it inside. It just shows the extreme nature of our Harchakos. I mean, I can't say I have a good shot exactly what was going on over there with this woman crying that her husband died and she deserved it. A little bit extreme. But one thing it shows us is that our Harchakos are real and the Harchakos are important. That's for sure. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Gimel, the Talmud Velio that you all saw, and finally the Lo Yochla Zava Mazava. Those are our basic Mekayris, and we'll leave it at that. So what's the tam? Why Lemaisa is Harchakos Aser? What's the reason? So there's really two basic mahalchim in the Rishonim. Two basic mahalchim. One you saw, which is Rashi. What does Rashi say in Shabbos Daf Yud Aleph and Aleph? Tivrei Maskel Mibnei. Rashi says Mibnei Hergel Aveira. That's the Gemara. Mibnei Shemitoich Shemisyachadin Yavai Livol Zava Shehu Bekaris. Because there is a heter of yichud, therefore there is a concern that you're going to do something. But it all stems from the heter of yichud. It stems from the fact that you're together all the time, tader ima. So therefore, Chazal came along and created siyagim for the husband and wife to prevent them from doing anything more. The Rush says similarly. On the other side of the coin, we have the Rashba. And the Rashba doesn't hone in on the yichud aspect. The Rashba hones in on the liba gaspa, that you're familiar with each other. And as we've already spoken about this in Smichas Chaver, that what does it mean liba gaspa? That in a marriage, things which maybe aren't romantic and aren't whatever for a random person could be from a marriage. Even though to take change from the gas attendant is not a problem, but to take change from your wife could be a problem, whether we understand it or not. But that is the Rashba. Are there any nafkaminas? We're going to see in a moment. We're going to see in a moment fascinating nafkaminas with regard to the reason of yichud, which we'll get to in a minute, which we'll get to in one moment. So now, are there dinim of harchakos by other women? This is not a sugya. It's not our sugya. It's really a sugya in Evan Ezer more. Do you have to be noyer chakos with a random woman? So what's the answer?
No.
No. Very good. Why not?
Because you're not going to come.
So it's a Ramah. The Ramah in Evan Ezer Simin Chav Aleph says nagu lahakal b'dvar milu. We're not to be mekel. Obviously, as if anyone wants to see, Rabbi Forrest over here breaks it down. As he what's that? I'll get to what you're about to ask in a second. Not that I knew you were going to ask that. No, that was only Nacham Dev yesterday. Where was I? Rabbi Forrest beautifully over here really breaks down. The isurim in our Harchakos. If I can't find it, I'll let everyone. Yeah. And the reason why it's important to have these gedarim, because this will be what's mutter to a different woman. He says there's three forms of separation. There's actual tashmish, there's intimate conduct, chiv v'nishik, and then there's harchakos. So only the harchakos shabai are mutter with other women. But of course, chiv v'nishik, of course, negia, and of course, actual tashmish is going to be usher in descending order. It's going to be tashmish b'liya deraisa, chiluk b'nishik will be a derabanan, will be malchus, and then Harchakos will only be by husband and wife. So now, for a few moments, I know none of you spoke about this yet, so that's why I want to start with things you didn't see inside, and then we'll get to the things you saw inside. Maybe that will diffuse the emotions in the room.
So what's the reason why other women there's no Harchakos?
The reason why other women are no Harchakos is the two timing don't apply. There's an Isser Yichud by other women, number one, and number two is there's no problem of Liba Gaspel by other women because there's no problem with Liba Gaspel. Now, what if one is Liba Gaspel with a woman, which is not Usser but Etzem, then it doesn't make a difference. L'maisar Harchakos, we are Noig L'Hakel, says the Ramah, and Ramosha Feinstein in the Tshuva Yeridei Chelik Aleph in the beginning of Simon Sadi speaks out the thing, but he says you can move on. He's talking about Harchakos with other women. He says, "Can move on." Obviously, it can't be a situation that I mean, we're talking about, like you asked, what's chayk b'kalos reish with a random woman. So this is really something that you have to open up an Even Ezer. You want to pass an Even Ezer Simcha Valf. It's one of those things that people enjoy hearing inside. We'll maybe quickly read it. But Ramosha says that, of course, it can't bring to here. So while you're getting that from me, let's just think about the following question. A chuppah's niddah. So a chuppah's niddah means that they got married and she was a niddah. Why? Either because she wasn't on birth control or whatever happened, it happened. Lamaisa, she is a chuppah's niddah. The question is, so if there's a chuppah's niddah, what's halacha? There's an isser, thank you very much. There's an isser yichud. There's an Isser Yichud. Now, what exactly they do, Laila Rishayna, Mir Tashem, is a sugya that I hope one day we will get to. I don't know exactly where, maybe when we learn Dam B'Sulam, which we skipped, we'll get back to it. But what they do that first night, how they do the Yichud room, etc. But now, is there an Isser Harchakos with that woman? What's an nafkamina? Two incredible nafkaminas. Well, aside from the nafkaminas, are you allowed to eat breakfast together? Are you allowed to hand yourself? Right? But it's a much larger nafkamina.
How do you put a ring on your finger?
Can you put the ring on your finger? And what else do you do under the chuppah?
Drink the kais.
Drink the kais, maybe.
First,
hand her the ksuba.
Yeah.
Hand her the ksuba. So those are the two shaylas that are fascinating. Before we get there, Before we get what's it
for a friend? If someone didn't.
Very good. Very good. We'll get there. We'll get there in a moment. I want to read you, just because we said that in Shar Nashim, there's no Isser Harchakos. Like when you learn that Gemara in Ksubis, that it says, Asr Labal Lishaisim Ishtay Sha'achas Balik Suba. There's always that guy in the basement who says, where's my Ksuba? Frantically looking for it. Frantically realizing that Baruch Hashem, the Shviger has held it for the last 10 years. And then when they realize, Shviger hasn't held it for the last 10 years, then we have a quick ceremony. Baruch Hashem, we write a new ksuba, and we take care of it. But either way, let's just read. Now that we said that there's no Isser Harchakos with other women, in order to counteract it, let's just read a Sif and Shulchan Aruch. This is in Even Ezer, Sin Chav Aleph, Sif Aleph. The title, which is written by Yosef Kair himself, thank you, is Lehisrachik min ha'arayis. Says the Mechaber. Sarach Adam Lehisrachik min ha'nashim ma'oid ma'oid. In the Akdama, the Yichud book, we quote this line that the lashon of ma'oid in the Mechaber, I think, is only used three times. I think it's only twice. I should know this. I wrote this in the Akdama, but I think the two times are here in Ribbis. I think those are the two times. Sarach Adam Lehisrachik min ha'nashim ma'oid ma'oid. Va'aser. What are you not allowed to do? Likroi. Again, now we're talking about a rayis. Who's an erva? Any woman you're not married to is an erva to you, unless she's your sister or whatever. We're talking about any unrelated woman, just to keep it very, very simple. And to keep it more simple, we'll talk about any single guy with any single girl. It's going to be din of an erva. Why? Why is she an erva to you? Because she's a niddah, I hope. If not, we have one of two issues: that she was going to the mikvah illegally, or that she hasn't seen blood her whole life, and then she has a different issue. She's an islandess, and that's a different story. But what is aser? Aser likroitz biyada. What does likroitz biyada means? To make motions with your hands, oibaraglav, or with your legs. Velir moizbein, if you're not even allowed to hint with your eyes. Le'echad me'arayis, one of their eyes. V'aser lisachik ima. You're not allowed to joke around with her. Lahakel roisha kenegda, to act in a lightheaded manner. Oy lahabit biyayfya. Which, by the way, I just answered your question, right? Very good. No? Yeah. Or lahabit b'yoifio, or to gaze at her beauty. Va'afilu lariach b'besamim shaleh, even to smell her besamim is aser. V'asal istakel b'nashim disal kvisi. You can look at the woman while they're bathing their clothing, not bathing, laundering their clothing. V'asal istakel b'gdei sevayin shalishta. You're not even allowed to look at the clothing of a woman shumakira if you recognize who the owner of the clothing is. Afilu inon alayim, she's not looking at it. You can't even look at the store window. Shamayav laharba, you might come to hear, which this word here we haven't defined yet what it is, which we're going to get to in a few moments with Ramesha. Paga. Okay, very good. I think we read enough. You're not allowed to walk behind women, and you're not allowed to listen to her voice, and you're not allowed to look at her hair. And if you do any of these things, what happens? We give you malchus. And these are all the things that are also chayv. So basically, even though harchakos are mutter, yes, you're allowed to take the change from her, or you're allowed to hand her when the valet person gives you the keys, or you give her the keys, it's mutter, but all the other things, chayv kalas reish v'chulu, is all aser. So back to us by chupas niddah. What is the halachos? This is fascinating. There's a Rav Elazar Moshe Haretz in Gemara and Shabbos. Now you're all wondering when the world do we quote the Rav Elazar Moshe Haretz, which is brought down in the Goyis Mefarshim in the back of the Gemara. The answer is that the Har Tzvi quotes it in the Tshuva, and we're going to jump many years all the way to the contemporary Lamaisa. Many of the Heintige Paiskim quote this. The one that I have in text is Rav Shimon Eider quotes it. There's a quote from Eliashiv like this. Ray Berkowitz quotes this as well. That what are you allowed to hand the woman the ksuba if it is a chupas niddah? Says Rav Elazar Moshe Haretz, kiven she'itiru liyached echmiru bazeh kakas rash b'kitchenida ulefizeh. Meaning we just said the whole time of our chakas is what? Is because there was a heter yichud if it's an isra chakais. Therefore, our chasan shepirsa kalasa nida, not the chasan was pirsa nida, but the kal was pirsa nida. Kaidem shebal mutter. Lachalima, let have breakfast the next morning. Ubisharei. I guess is this part of the chasan Rabbi Shmuz when they say it's not so bad? Don't worry, at least you could have breakfast together in the morning. I don't think so.
No, because you could have breakfast anyway.
Not. What are you talking about? Can you eat at the same plate? Seder. It's not called breakfast if you're not eating at the same plate. Uvishari is karvis kechol anashim kol makom beliba gasva. He says yish lahachmir lemaisa. The Heintige Paiskim Lamashal Berkowitz will quote in his Talmud Sefer the Zera Shmuel. He writes that chubas nidas asli sachanima ein tzrich linoy chakais, and that is the halacha, and therefore you could hand the ksuba directly to her. Someone was asking, what if you didn't hand it directly to her? You just don't remember. What the minhag, what they do is that the overzealous mother-in-law grabs it from her daughter's hands the second she receives it. Why? So that she does not lose it. Sometimes maybe she shouldn't grab it because she herself is more absent-minded than the kala. So you do hand it to her. You're not married, the mother. You do hand it to her, but she right away hands it to her mother, or her mother right away takes it. So sometimes it's like such a flawless pass, one might not even recall that. But either way, he says that it's going to be mutter l'mais in Eretz Yisrael. The minhag is to be machmir again because it's an isra yichud. There's a heter of Harchakos. We're going with that lemaisa with an ishtay niddah. So now next shayla, very good. What about putting the ring on her finger? But now we have a different issue. What's the issue with the ring on the finger?
Touching her.
You might come to touch her. If you take a ring and you put a ring like this, you don't have to necessarily touch her. Lamaisa over here, this is, as they call it, a world war. Halach Lamaisa is a Pischei Tshuva in Even Ezer. You can actually read it in Sifkatin Yud Gimel, that the Pischei Tshuva is makel to put the ring on. Pischei Tshuva says, Pischei Tshuva... Oh, I'm in the wrong sim. Excuse me. The Pischei Tshuva is makel to put the ring in her finger, but you just have to be careful not to touch her.
And if you do?
You have to be careful not to touch her. No, that's the halacha. I can't find the Pischei Tshuva inside. Simin Samach Aleph Sif Katan Yud Gimel. 1 second. Try one more time and then we'll move on. Okay. Lamaisa, many paiskim are mekel. The Shevet Levi will read is the easiest. B'chobas nida. Paiskim the yachal lasem atabas al etzba'a ubilvad shlo yiga ba. Be careful. The Badei HaShulchan by us and Sivkatin Yud Ches says the same thing. You put the ring on and normally and you don't have to worry about it. Even though he says it's all to touch her, he says that that's not a problem. You should just try not to touch her, and that's the answer. It's going to end.
The ksuba is fine also.
Again, this is worse than the ksuba. Because the ksuba, you're not going to touch her. It's a long item.
A woman, if a woman's a niddah and they're married properly, like you probably wouldn't allow the husband to put the ring on her finger.
Of course not, because there's a heter yichud. This whole thing begins, very good, the whole thing begins because of Nisr yichud. But you are, I'll tell you what the point that's bothering you is that we're sort of like almost turning a blind eye that you might end up touching her. So what's the answer?
Don't touch her.
Let's go one second. Very good. Right. Just like I go to a bath, I'm not suggesting put a ring on the bath attendant's finger.
Right.
And certainly don't say Ariyam Mekudeshesli, as some terrible stories have happened in the past. Wow. And Pislei Tshuva talks about them as well, and we can talk about that afterwards. But if you were to do it and you touch her, it's not an Isser Be'etzem.
So then why is it worse if it's not what we just said? Why is touching worse than passing Ksuba? Meaning if touching, like we just said, there are no Harchakos.
Why are there more machmirim with the ring?
Yeah.
Because you definitely could understand that touching is usher. A negiyah that's not a negiyah shalchiva, it's a mutter. You definitely could understand this is a woman that you're marrying, and certainly the touch of her is going to be different than whatever. So therefore, there are going to be more paiskim that are going to be machmir. I don't know why. I thought. I don't know. I guess I'm wrong. I thought they put on a different finger. Yeah, that's what Heinemann says. Maisa, again, I think we'll get there in a minute.
What does that do?
No, he says she puts her finger up and you drop it on.
Not her finger.
That's what he says. I don't know what the minhag is. I don't know. Anyone here was a Chabas Niddah?
What's wrong with the shliach?
No, nothing's wrong with it.
It's not like just awkward.
You also don't have to show up to your wedding. I'm saying.
It's awkward.
What's awkward? It's a Gemara.
That's why.
Yeah, whatever.
Why don't you give it to the
So good. So now this comes to the next question. The next question that it comes to is, what about that? Is there a heter of busha? That's really the follow-up question. Because one second, let's get there. Because lemaisa, one could say, okay, what's the big deal? Well, why are we being so whatever? Who cares? So don't put the ring on the finger. You don't need to. Put it on the mother-in-law's finger, and she's mekadesh for her daughter-in-law. And put it on Sprince's finger, and she's mekadesh for your wife. Or you don't put the ring on at all. Call up a friend from the crowd, and he'll put the ring on. There's certainly halachic ways to figure it out. You don't even have to show up to the wedding. You be a mekadesh v'chulu. So the question is, why are we perhaps being a little bit liberal? Well, the first answer is because it's mutter. So if it's mutter, it's mutter. That's the first answer. Meaning, if we're passing like this, Rav Moshe Haris that Kol Zman is Isser Yichud, there's a heter on Harchakos, then it's mutter. That's answer number one. But Lamaisa, what is the status of Harchakos b'makam busha? So we all know Rav Moshe, which we've spoken out. Rav Moshe says there's no. I'm sorry. Rav Moshe says there's no area to say that busha is going to be a heter. He says, "Mashem is baishas kishinim says im elu she'inun shamers teira dinei teira ein lahachshav bushas kazul kavod abriyas lahater yisurim." This is not a real busha. Now, let me just give you a background. Kavod abriyas is a real heter. Kavod abriyas were making in Hilchos Shabbos on derabbanans and maybe even some level daraisas. We believe in kavod abriyas. We believe in the dignity of human beings. So why all of a sudden here, when it comes to Harchakos, she's going to be mortified? Why are we being like overly zealous? So Ramesh is saying that in a normal scenario, you're just being sensitive, Kilu. It's not kavod abriyas. To go to a toilet to not use the toilet paper on Shabbos, L'chayra, we can understand that might be a high level kavod abriyas, whereas to not take the plate of chicken from your wife when you're in public and she puts it in front of you, that's l'chayra what Ramesh is saying.
Concept of Niddah. It's not like
That again, that's how Ramesh says. Everyone knows such a concept, but I'm calling more as Ramesh says. What if you're with people that don't know the concept of Niddah? He still says no, it's not a busha, it's not a this. There's different ways of saying it. You could say one nusach that you're only self-conscious. No one actually cares. I heard a great line recently. I'm going to repeat it incorrectly, so I'm going to say who I heard it from, and then I'll tell you what the line is, and then I'll say that I'm not repeating it right. This is from Rabbi Majeski. He says that the whole world is running around trying to press people that you don't know, and they don't care about you. It's a very strong line. Everyone's busy everyone's living for everyone else, but no one actually cares about you. So stop living for everyone else. Because they're busy worrying about what you're worrying about, and no one's caring. So you're worried that I have the whole world only sees me in this way, but they don't actually care what you look like. it's all one big revolving circle. But then maybe that's a similar story over here, that you think that everyone is busy looking at you, that, oh my gosh, she put the chicken down in front of you. I don't know. People put the chicken down on the table and don't hand it in. Like,
Yes, but if Aunt Bertha's there.
good. So now, and even if yes, that's where Moshe comes in. Lamaisa, it is important to mention that there are certain scenarios that if it is a real kavod abrius, there is a level of heter. Meaning, Rosh Zalman talks about a case, which I believe we mentioned, is that she hands you the chicken, right? You're sitting at the Shabbos Suda, wherever you are, and she hands you the chicken. So says Rosh Zalman. Let's just go in order. Says Rosh Zalman. Let's read it together. This is Rosh Zalman in the Shulchan Shleim Niddah Paraches. Makars the Tunis of Katan Yabez. I have no clue what that is. Ketza Balzar Linig Vishnu Niddah Sheshacha. She makes a mistake and she hands you something. And if you don't take it, she's going to be embarrassed. Says the Rebbe. Teresh is davar number one. Says Rosh Zalman, use your brain. That's that. By the way, that line we should just blast that line on the Aron Kodesh and move on. That's a lot of what we're talking about. Is you have to act with seichel. And with that, you're gonna have a chayt. What seichel? Says Rosh Zalman. He gives you an eitzes. Think of an excuse. Why you're not taking the item? Figure out a way. What's a way? I don't know. She hands you the plate and you just walk away the other way and you're talking to someone. So she's not embarrassed because you didn't hear her and you walked away. Or you say, oh, it's too heavy, just put it down. What everyone's hearing, oh, it's too heavy, so put it down. That's the strangest thing to say. No, it's not. People say that all the time. Or she says, oh, here, take it. You're like, no, it's okay, just leave it there. Oh, that's crazy. No, what do you mean? You said that 40 other times throughout the meal. But now, so says Rosh Zalman, number one, before you start finding kulas, number one is act with your brain, which is a good klal, stam, in life. Let's say lemaisa. And now, I'll be honest, I don't know the exact case, because in a normal scenario there are aces. But let's say, I don't know, she walks over to you with the big platter of chicken, and it's hot, and there's no tables around, and she says, here. And the whole world is watching you. Now, why the whole world watching her hand you the chicken? I don't know. But let's just pretend in a kiddush. Yeah, that's a good case. A kiddush in a shul, it's a haimish shtibel matziv, and the women's section and the men's section are a little bit too close. And it's a haimish shtibel. These things are allowed. That's what I grew up in. This is not the shtibel. I'm not sure I'm talking about now. And what happens, the kiddush is served. So what happens? The rebbetzin goes to the kitchen, and she takes out the food, and she hands it to the men's section. So your wife, not so intelligently, goes to help. That's not why it wasn't so intelligent. It wasn't so intelligent because she forgot that she was a Niddah. And she goes and she picks up the plate, and you're standing there, and there's like 4 people behind you, and they're all watching, and she hands you the plate. So maybe that would be a good case. Like
factor by bris, there's no tables around for the baby.
No, but that was a bad case because you should have set it up beforehand differently. And let's say you did it. Yeah, the answer is drop the baby on the floor. Meaning, what are our options? That's exactly the point. I'm trying to design a case with no other options. The kvater, the bris, if you have seichel beforehand, which maybe we'll talk about what you do. So anyway, says Rosh Zalman, v'tigran leisha busha gidoyla me'oid b'kaygam la'amrina shegadol hashalom v'yitel es hachefetz miyad. You could take the item. So, in as much as kavod abrius is not a heter, like Rav Moshe taught us, and one should not live their life saying, oh, kavod abrius, because the way I think we could say it is one is the lechatchila, one is the b'diavad. Rav Moshe is talking about how you're going to act day to day, always. That's lechatchila. You don't act, oh, this is going to be a matzah of busha, which many people, unfortunately, incorrectly repeat. Yeah, it's embarrassing. Some wife is let to hand me things in public, and I don't know, it's embarrassing. Figure it out. That's what Rosh Zalman is teaching us. But if it's a matzav that you cannot, then lemaisa there is a makom to be mekel. In the case of the kvater, I'll just we'll jump the gun. We're eventually going to get there when we talk about passing children, but we could just quickly mention that now. Most places can say it's a problem. Let's just leave it at that. We'll get to names and faces eventually. But there are eitzes. Eitzah number one is don't become kvater. It's a skula. So many places can say it's better to flee shemer halacha. Fine, but you don't want that. You can't. Whatever the reason is, it's your it's your brother, and he's not going to listen if you tell him that your wife's a niddah. He wants to give you whatever the case is. So there are eitzes with the standard with this. There are other eitzes also. Have someone else take the baby in between. Who is the skula dafka? I don't know. I don't. Someone has to look in the book of skulas. Is the skula for her to hand you the baby? I don't think so. I think the skula is the kvater to bring in the baby for the bris. So she can bring it in. Now, if it's a sibling, it's very simple. She'll bring it in. Let's play out the case. I'll use myself for this one. So just to make it easier. Okay, it's my wife at the time is in Niddah. And it's my sister's bris. Okay? Good. Now, so my wife brings in the baby, so I can't take the baby. So now I tell my sister, my brother-in-law beforehand, be present. This is a shtick that someone thought of, and I think it's beautiful. I mean, you'll tell me if it works. You got to try it. And we're all going to convene at the mechitza, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a picture. Beautiful, kvater with the Baal Simchas. Beautiful. And what's going to happen after the picture? Sister will take the baby.
Your wife is holding the baby.
All four of us.
Are holding the baby.
All four of us. Or she'll just hold it and they'll all be around. And then she'll hand baby to my sister, who'll give it to me. My sister can give me the baby. But everyone's going to see. No, they're not, because you paused and took a picture. And the mother of the baby, normal for mommy to take baby, very normal, and then she can hand it over, and that can even work if it's not your sister, it's your sister-in-law. She's also allowed to pass to you. You're just not allowed to pass to your wife. I'm just saying this is Rosh Zalman, that you use your brain, you could figure it out. Lemaisa, I want to read you a line from Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. What about a mitzvah tans when the kala is a niddah? So all our Hasidim amongst us should get nostalgic.
It's us or anyway.
So, very good. So what about a mitzvah tans when they cut? Now, Chevra, what happens at the mitzvah tans?
We shouldn't talk about it.
It happens at the mitzvah tans. What happens at the mitzvah tans?
Dance.
Stays
Dance.
at those.
So the answer is, again, what the answer is this only works in the world of Hasidim. In the fake mitzvah tans, this doesn't work. Let me explain. Chevra, it's important. In the fake mitzvah tans, where Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky is not going to work. What do I mean fake mitzvah tans? In the mitzvah tans that many people have, husband and wife hold hands, chassan and kala, hold hands, and they dance at the end of the mitzvah tans. Well, this is mutter and also chaver. We'll talk about that another time. But she's mutter. Now, I'm just telling you what happens. Now, she's a niddah. So if they want to hold hands, there's no hitzah. I'm sorry. That's not going to be mutter. I don't care what you're going to push. In the Chassidish world, that's not what happens. Is that she holds a tissue, depending on how Chassidish is a tissue, or it's a handkerchief, or it's a gartel, or it's a other side of the stadium, right? And then the Rebbe and all the other Rebbes and all the other Chash people hold the end of the gartel and they dance with her, and she stands there. And usually she's very covered, so no one can even see her, and she's taking a nap standing up, and because it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and everything is good. But could the chassan do it? So it says of Yaakov Kamenetsky, Ukshira chobas niddah, v'amechutanim, roitzim b'daf kolasis rikad shal mitzvah shachas v'kal roitim al yedei mitfachat oy ezer hamafsek. You hold a gartel or something. Yesh lahater lasas kimishum gadol kavod habriyos. There is a mock-up to make, but again, I think you see also from the way he says it, this is not lechatchila. It's someone putting their foot down. They're not letting you not do it, right? So then there are eight, but again, only certain areas is there what to play with. Now, finally, what about giving a get? What about giving a get? What about giving a get?
Wow. What
about giving a get? I usually, I don't want to say usually, I don't know if there's any usual when it comes to getting, but I would assume, when a husband's giving wife a get, she probably is a niddah. I don't think she's going to the mikvah for the occasion. So, she's a niddah, how's he going to hand her a get? Says the base Yitzchak, as well as many other places. He says similar, not very similar to what he's saying. He says, Kiva de kol iser, shlo yoisha, why not let her hand something is there abundant shemel yavad, they can lead their hergal aveira. The get is coming to sever. Very, very gishmak. Finally, is we quote the article book over here quotes the Niddah, as many others say this, is that during Shabbat brachos there are those that even when the wife is mutter, why is she mutter? Because they did not have the bias mitzvah, they tell the chassan and kala to be noyeg harchakos midarke snius. This isn't a halacha, it's just snius. It's snius because not everyone should be looking at you and knowing that she is mutter or aser. Now, normally we're not worried about that, but in a matzav of Sheva brachas that people are looking. So, therefore, what do is there are those that say to be noyig archakos. Givaldi. Now, we get into Sif Aleph. Okay? Sif Aleph is Chayv V'Kalas Reish. In order for the Hakdamah to Chayv V'Kalas Reish, not the Hakdamah, together with the question is, what is aser? What is the Isser of Chayv V'Kalas Reish? So, obviously, Rav Nosson says that Tamaloimer loisik rav. I think loisik rav, and therefore you cannot be medaber imod dvarim betelim. Based off of this, says the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Aleph that there's an iser schoik v'kalas reish. Now, what does schoik v'kalas reish mean? What do the words mean in English? What is aser and what is mutter? What do the words mean? So what schoik means joking, and kalas reish means a light-headed manner. So it sounds like you cannot tell your wife the Laffy Taffy joke. That's called a joke. That's what it sounds like, right? So it comes along. I would like to read a few lashonos of the Paiskim, and then segue into what is the reason it's aser. So let's begin with reading the words of the Be'er Moshe, the Debertina Rav, when he was asked about playing ping pong. And many Paiskim, notably Rav Shimon Eider says from Rav Moshe, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, as well as others, say ping pong is aser. Schoik v'kalas reish. Says Be'er Moshe, number one, you're hitting the ball away from her. Gishmak, you're not hitting the ball to her. Very good. It's not called zrika because you're trying to get it away from her. Number one. Number two, he says, no, not really trying to hit to her, with spinning into her. Okay, Gishmak.
Your wife, you're not playing to win.
When you're playing your wife, you're not like.
Yours not good. You're playing with her.
You're not playing to win. What are you playing? What are you doing?
To humor. She wants to play with you. So you're ready to get.
You're not playing to win, what's normal?
How is that?
Yeah, what?
No, when you go on a date, for example, what do you do?
You're married to her, you don't have to let her win anymore.
She's not gonna be able to return one.
She should have asked to play ping pong.
The salmon for lunch.
If you know how to play ping pong, she should not be able to return one of your.
Weiter. I'm not going to even. I will not respond to such feminine behavior in public. Says the Be'er Moshe.
No, I want an answer on this one.
I just did.
No.
Loy Yil Bash. Weiter. Says the Be'er Moshe. Well, we'll get there. We'll answer your question. We'll get there. Calm down. We'll get there. Speaking about emotional. Wow. So that's number one says the Be'er Moshe. Number two says the Be'er Moshe, which is what we were trying to get to before we got slightly interrupted. Ein lesser. What is the Isser of Schoik v'Kalas Reish? Why is it Asr? Why? God just doesn't want you to have fun when you're in Niddah? What? Hashem hates fun. That's what it is? It sounds like some bad Catholic play. You know, God doesn't like fun. No, that's not what it means. If you want to see... here we go. I think he says over here... Yes. I think he says over here... Shema Yargul Avir, Avada, meaning, but the point is, fun is not the Isser. That's one Lashon. I'm reading a few Lashonos, and then we're going to define the Isser based on Ramesh, okay? That's Lashon number one. Lashon number two comes along the Rav Nevinsol. Hiliger Rav Nevinsol from the Old City. They asked him, are you allowed to play chess? Chess with your wife and she's in Niddah. Chess. Can you remember chess? You know, a good thought-provoking game. Says Rav Nevinsol, yes. You're allowed to play chess. He throws in over the Rebbe. Who's Rav Nevinsol's Rebbe? Who knows? Shem Zaman Arach. Avol Adonina Marina v'Rabbeinu Aser leish bechlal l'sachik chess. Why not to play chess?
Michlal, always.
Never play chess.
It's a
What
game.
is our-
No.
No, it's a game at the
No.
Christians meet.
Bittul Torah. Mimesha zu kvias lebittul Torah. Gewaldig. Okay, I thought you guys would appreciate that one. Weiter. Says the Mishnah Halachis, Rav Menashe Klein. He says as follows. Again, I know everyone I'm reading is just Heintige L'Shainis, but we're trying to get a little bit of a feel. What is this Chayv Kalas Reish? He says, Haragal bibadchanos. If someone is a joking type of guy, mutter loy lisnai kim b'mei nidasa. He's allowed to do that while his wife's in nida. Af shemiskalgdan al yidei zeh mischayk. It's going to bring to laughter. Mikol makai mutter. Kivan shezel loy margul oisam le'erva. Kivan shehim regilim kim. Because they normally joke around. So saying if he's Mr. Laffy Taffy joke, don't sit next to him. But if he's Mr. Laffy Taffy joke, then he can tell Laffy Taffy jokes. Either gonna laugh and giggle, her. Still, it's allowed. Why? Because it's not bringing lidei erva. It's not bringing lidei erva. What we're seeing over here is that, and finally, let's yeah. So what's Aser? What's Aser? Tapas. What's Hargul Avir? What's Lashon Shulchan Aruch? Please read it for me again.
Shema Yargul La'avim.
Yargul La'avira. What's Yargul Avira? So what's Yargul Avira? What we're seeing is that it could bring them to Avira. What Avira is it bringing them to? Gili Arayis. She's a Niddah, she is Aser. If they're going to act in a lightheaded and frivolous manner, they're going to come to be nichshal in the Isser of a Niddah. They're going to come to touch, hug, kiss, etc. That is the Isser. Now, some asked, and Ramesha in multiple tshuvas comes along to address this point. Even Ezer, Chelik Aleph, Simin, Samaches, and Samachtes. Even Arachayim, and Samachvav. And Samachvav. No, Even Ezer, let me see it like that. Chelik Aleph, Simin, Samachtes, Samachtes. Chelik Dalit, Simin, Samachvav. Arachayim, Chelik Dalit, Samachtes, Vav. Ramesha writes to us more point. He comes along to define the Isser of Nishmartem, the Isser of Leisasuru. These are very Yisaidistic Rameshas in general in life. What's Asr, what's Mutter, etc. Comes along Ramesha, and Ramesha says, hear her, and we're going to define that. Let's not leave words in Hebrew that we don't understand. Hear her, says Ramesh, is Aser even when a woman is tahar. What, aren't we learning Harchakos? Correct. Hargul Aveira is not hear her, says Ramesh. It's not hear her. Why? Because hear her is Aser even when she's tahar. Hargul Aveira is Aveira, Beinai Lebeina, is Aveira, is Tashmish between husband and wife. Hear her is Aser even when she's mutter. Says Ramesh, and I'll read you one line. De'im ha'yachayishin lehear ha'aser afilu be'ishtai u'bimei taharasa. Hear her is always Aser. What is the Isser of hear her? Amar Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Says Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, Al Yaharer Adam B'Yayin. One should not be Maharer. Now we're going to get a definition of what the word hearer means. By day, V'Yavoy Lidei Toma Balayla. She'Isser Zehu Af Be'ishtei Shehi Muteres Loi. There's a separate Isser that has nothing to do with our sugya, and let's not get confused. There's an Isser of here. What's Isser of here? The Isser of here is Shemo Yavli Dei Kari Balayla. There's an Isser for a man, even when his wife is mutter, to have thoughts. Could we coin them inappropriate thoughts? Well, I don't know. Maybe he's thinking about his wife, who's mutter to him. But maybe his wife is not home right now, which we'll talk about that case in one moment. Is he allowed to fantasize about his wife when she is not home? So you say, it's his wife! Yeah, but if she's not here, what's that going to lead to? If it's going to lead to Amar Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, Shemo Yavli de Kari Balayla, then it's Aser. That has nothing to do with Harchakos. The Harchakos that we're discussing is a different story. You're going to bring Lidei Hargul Aveira. What's Hargul Aveira? You're going to be joking around. You're having a late night chess game. It sounds funny. A late night game, like a more normal game. No one? Who plays board games here? No? Taboo! Sheshmesh! Competitive game of Sheshbesh. So you're having a late night game of Twister. No, that's also because you're going to touch her. You're having a late night game of Bananagrams. Bananagrams, that's a big date game, no?
Rummy Cup.
Rummy Cub. Okay, all the wonderful date games are coming up, Baruch Hashem. And what's going to happen, if you're joking around, and if you're whatever, it could bring lidei hargul avira. Lamaisa, you're married to this woman. Lamaisa, you're in close quarters. Lamaisa, you're joking around. It's late at night, and therefore it could bring lidei hargul. That's the isser.
So
now,
change by day and night?
Oh, very good. So now that is something that has to be quantified and qualified on a personal, on a subjective basis. There's no klal. What is hargul avira? What's hargul avira for you might not be for me, and what's for me might not be for you. There's no way to say this is black and white usr. This is black and white usr. So that's the hakdama. Now before we go into more cases, for example, there's an email that they asked Rabbi Berkowitz. Again, he's writing in English, so we're trying to look for English lashonos to help us understand what's going on over here. Is a couple allowed to express affection to each other over the phone when they are in different countries? Would it depend on if she is tahar or not? Great question. Because they're in different countries. We're discussing Shemel Yavali de Hargul Aveira. What's the Hargul Aveira? She's not in the country. He answered, if there would be a chashash, hear her, it's usher even if she's tahar. So let's not get confused. On the other hand, if they're joking around, that's not going to bring lidei hear her. It's not going to bring lidei kishui. It's not going to bring lidei zera balayla. But they're joking around. That's going to bring lidei kirva. That might be mutter if she's in a different country, because you can't have kirva if she's in a different country. This definition, I believe is, and again, I'm going to read another email for Ray Berkowitz, who he says it a little bit stronger. And again, this is not that we're quoting Ray Berkowitz, Lafuki, anyone. This is Ramesha. It's bad this is Ramesha we're quoting, which many people would take the Shulchan Aruch, whereas defining Lidei Hargul Aveira. He writes, there's no difference whether she's tar or not. Showing passion would not be a problem, since they're in different countries. It can't be margulei. Therefore, Harchakos are not applicable. If there would be chashash here, it would be a problem even if she is tahar. This definition, in my feeble opinion, is very important, because this really puts into context everything. If there's here, there's no discussion. And by the way, there's no discussion even if she's mutter. Now, I'd be remiss. I'm not being fair, so let me be fair for a moment. When she's mutter, there are paiskim that are makel on here. There are paiskim that are makel on here. For example, and I don't want to, again, I already read Moshe, but says the Chutshani. Again, the reason why I gave Moshe such emphasis is not because he's Moshe, which is enough of a reason, because I think in our Balabatisha world, it probably talks us the most. But let's read it. Let's read the Chutshani. Nissi Karelis. Nissi Karelis says, Pashat. Shegam Baal Shemahara be'ishtek she tahira Sheikh Isser hear her Imhu begavna if he is in a situation Sheish Chashash She'avli Dei Tuma, which Ramesha just said, right? Ki goyin shemakir be'atzma, he knows she hears that Yachal Lahavli Dei Tuma. Vein Amnam Bistama Ish Be'ishtoi Loy Chayshina. If there was in a husband and wife, we're not really worried about that. She be the Chir Yavli Dei Tuma. Miyad kivin sharagul ba, because he's accustomed with her. If you know yourself that it will, then it could be a problem. So it's really that it's very subjective. He ends up, but if it's pas besaloi and she's around, and therefore he can just be with her right away, then it's mutter.
He's just saying it's not here.
Right. So very good. He's not really arguing, but what he's doing is he's expanding a little bit. He's spending a little bit that he's saying it's practical. He throws a line. Hear her. So again, whether in Lumdis there's a difference going on over here between Ramesha and Sikrelis, whether they're learning that there's a be'etzim dika isser of hear her, or whether it's just a practicality if it's going to bring lidei toma yishladin. But that is again whether it's let's leave it. Let's keep things simple, and we're not learning Simon Chav Aleph right now. Let's just keep it simple. Lamaisa, if the hearer is going to bring to issues, then it's going to be usher. If it's not going to bring to issues, then it's going to be mutter. What we're discussing, we cannot overemphasize, has nothing to do with hearer. Nothing to do with hearer. If there's hearer, it is usher always. Now, let's mention If this here is usher always, but we just said, what do you mean? But pas besal, your wife is right there. That nekuda ends when she's a niddah. That was very simple. I just did the math. Meaning, pas besalo, it's mutter. Let's again. I don't want to be overly graphic, but for a moment, let's say it's going to bring the day here. He's talking to his wife in a very we'll use Ray Berkowitz word, passionate and expressive way, and it's bringing him lidei kisha, lidei hira, etc. So if his wife is tahira and she's around, so maybe one could say it's mutter. Why is it mutter? Because he could just be with her, like Rav Nissim Krelitz is teaching us. Maybe Rav Moshe argues on the detail. Let's leave it. But if she's usher, that's for sure usher. That is schayk v'kalas roish shem yav lidei hargal aveira. It's exactly what it is. And therefore, we're now, with that, we're not going to actually go involved and start discussing chess versus ping pong versus tennis versus all these things, because it's all irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. It's a subjective question, what you're doing. And now back to your question. If you're having a romantic game of ping pong, allowing her to win in a giddy manner, then maybe it's usher. Do I understand what I just said? I hope not. I'm sorry.
There's another problem there also, throwing at her or whatever.
What do you say?
Right, that's what made me say it, because you said that there's a reason ping pong, you're throwing it away from her.
Yeah.
So I was saying in this way, you're throwing it to her. So is
Yeah. Okay. So when we learn
zrika,
zrika, we'll see whether there's a heter of throwing up or not. It's going to be a debatable point, but certainly in such a manner, l'chayra, that wouldn't be the isra l'chayra. But again, if it's whatever, it sounds like it's getting pretty close to schayk v'kalas reish. We always have to realize there is something that is usher in schayk v'kalas reish. If we say, what do you mean? That's not schayk v'kalas reish. That's never going to bring the day here. Then you're just not being realistic. So you're just being over Yisurim because you're not being honest. God knows what's honest, and you don't. And you're pretending, no, nothing's going to bring me to here. The whole Harchakos is a Harchaka, is a siyag, is to make a boundary. So if you say, I don't need any boundaries, okay, so you're better than Chazal. Very good. And, Lachamei of Esrim, let's not finish that sentence. So now, you let it kiss a child that your wife is holding. You let it put a pacifier in the mouth of a child that your wife is holding. So the case of the pacifier and things like that, okay, I don't really see why that would be an issue. Well, when we talk about passing, which we're not going to get to today, we'll have to discuss, maybe this is like the same thing as putting something in the purse that your wife is holding. Okay, we'll get there.
So that was fine.
We'll get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get to Mitzvah Hashem. We spoke about it, but we're going to speak about it properly. But what about giving the child a kiss? Now that's something, again, one just has to be realistic. Maybe it depends. Many poskim in print, they all say it's usher. Let's give the baby a kiss. I will just mention what's called a baby. Meaning, if it's a 5-year-old that wife is holding, to give the 5-year-old a kiss. Meaning, part of the reason it's usher is that you're coming very close to her, and it's v'kalas roish. Now, what should I tell you? If it's an older child, that's not true. I don't think that. Meaning, it is or it isn't. On a baby, I understand. You're holding a teeny little baby azoi, and you're giving the child a kiss. Azoi, l'chayra, that's very, what should I tell you? That's v'kalas roish. Probably. Again, subjective. But when it comes to an older child, maybe that would be a geder.
Giving them because of touching her.
You're not touching her. You can't touch her. If you touch her, you touch her. You don't know. If you touch her, you touch her. Yeah. Again, it's intimate. No. Again, stop. If you're going to touch her, it's usher. Now, the shayla is, I'm not going to touch her. Okay, great. The baby is sleeping, my wife is still, I'm not going to touch her. Givaldi. Is it still usher? So the answer might be, is it an intimate act? If it is an intimate act, and no one could define this, one person might say, and I'm doing a little tshuva right now, I think I actually said in a shir, only reason I think I said this because I remember getting yelled at, so I'm assuming that's what I said, that, I'll say what I said, that it's intimate to give a baby a kiss when your wife's holding. That's like odd. It's like, why is that intimate? Like, it's just weird. And if it is, it's doubly weird. You give the baby the kiss. But someone came over to me afterwards and said, what do you mean? It's intimate. So, good. So now we have the answer. Yeah, right. So if it's but I sort of, after he said that to me and I thought about it and I'm thinking about it again, all of us together here, kissing is an intimate act. If you're kissing something that's speaking of babies, Baruch Hashem. If you're kissing something that's very close to wife, that, what should I tell you? That's very, if your wife is a doorpost and she's wearing the mezuzah.
Same thing. I'm saying she's right near the mezuzah, so you're like.
Also, it's showing affection like when a baby is.
This was the point that I think we should do off camera. Matanas, presents.
Good question.
The presents, Lamaisa, presents, if it's something normal, it is mutter. If it's something yuchad, if it's something special, it definitely could bring lidei iser. Maybe I would say even better, not the present that's usher, it's the card that comes with the present that might be usher. And if there's no card with the present, then you shouldn't be buying your present because you're just wasting your money. And that l'chayra might be the problem. The mice of the poskim are makel for the wife to give. Now this is important idea, and this we're almost done. Can a wife give her husband a present? Now, I want to qualify something very important. Even though we're going to see many Harchakos don't go both ways. We're going to see Lamash. You didn't see Yetziv Zayin that he cannot look at her, or whatever it means, certain parts of her body. Can she look at his body? Answer is yeah. Now, in a vacuum, what I just said is true. In reality, we have to ask ourselves the same question. If something could potentially bring him lidei hear, it's usher, irrelevant of anything. That is a running thread that's always there. Some people understand this, some people don't understand this. This is, what should I tell you? For him to walk around undressed. Stop. He wants to walk around the house in his birthday suit. He thinks it's normal. Listen, I'm not going to get involved. He thinks it's normal. So someone might say, says in Shulchan Aruch, Kosadi, hey, Sif, Zayin, it's mutter. Why? Because it says there, she cannot look at him, but he can look, he cannot look at her, she can look at him. Maybe that's true, but maybe if this is going to bring him lidei hear her by walking around undressed in front of his wife, then it's usher. It's usher al tir, and it's also usher al tzchei v'kal reish. But I'm not joking. It's tzchei v'kal reish. That's what I'm trying to. I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive. This is a detail that I felt very strongly is very misconfused. It's not something that could be qualified as a joke, as it is. That it's a nature, it's a feeling, it's a romantic, it's all the words that we should say. So now we're taking. So can I say I love you? It depends on each person. For one person to say I love you is mutter. For one person, to say, what?
Why do you have to call? It's like I should call it Harry Levi.
Well, that's what the Shulchan Aruch says.
Why is it mutter for her to look at him?
So again, it's mutter for her to look at him because for her there is no isser. If her looking at him is going to bring him lidei hear, then it's also for him to be broadly lidei hear for everything. She didn't do the isser. One second. She did nothing wrong. He did something wrong. Now, if it brings the Hargul of it's the same type of thing. You're right. I understand. I'm just beating a dead horse over here, but it's important to realize that everything comes back to the same point. And now, with that, we'll discuss what about this is a cute case. Can you swim in the same swimming pool? Now everyone's going to quickly jump, so please don't jump out loud and say, "What do you mean? Swimming together is certainly a romantic act." So the poskim, the case that I saw was you have a bunch of kids. She's fully dressed, and you're going to a swimming pool together. Private pool. No, everyone calm down with all your issues. Your private pool, husband and wife, 4 little kids. She's fully dressed. You're fully dressed with your tuxedo. Can you go into the pool together? So I saw very nicely that some places want to say if it's a normal size pool, there's no problem. If it's a kiddie pool, that was the shaila. Someone sent Ray Berkowitz an email. Stop. I like his emails because they're cute. These are things that no one would ask from Yashiv. Can I go into a kiddie pool with my wife? Like, what's a kiddie pool? He wouldn't go like this because he doesn't know the computers. But he said a kiddie pool. So Berkowitz said back, a kiddie pool sounds like it could be he says Karav Leos Nikia. That's what he said, which I could hear. A kiddie pool with how many kids? He said a bunch of 4 children. 4 children, a husband and wife in a kiddie pool. I don't know how big the kiddie pool is, but you know what I'm saying? But now let's say it's a full-size pool. It's a good example. There's no isser. What do you mean? But I'm going to feel the water that she moves. That itself is not an isser. And again, if it's chayv b'kal reish, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. We're going to conclude. We're running out of time.
So
yeah.
Chayv b'kal reish is subjective. That's.
In Shulchan Aruch it's subjective. It says but it's subjective only to a point. Once one doesn't have a point that's ever lidei hargul, that means just not being honest. Right. Something has to be usher. That is the nekuda, which I think is part of the misconfusion. Va'oid, the yav lidei here, certainly in the world of 2023 that we live in, is a very strong point. Yavel Lidei here. I understand they're in the Sikral. It said, yeah, no, husband and wife, and they're close with each other. I don't know. What about the first week that they're married? No, I don't know. Definitely could be Heragul Avera and Lidei here that first week. So this is a very strong point that is all of our Harchakos is really built on that Yesod. Now everything else is really just cases of that. Okay, there's Negiah, there's Eshat, and all the things we're going to talk about, but that is really the top of it. And now, Besamim, I think we all saw the Pesach Tshuva brings down. We'll leave that. Let's just conclude with the following case. What is the story with touching her? Touching her, the answer is it is Asr. What is the story with touching her al yidei davar acher? The answer is it is Asr. Can I put on gloves and touch her? The answer is no. Can I touch her with a stick? The answer is no. However, with a big however, is the same level. Is the same level? The answer is no. I'm not really touching her. I'm not really touching her. If I take a stick and I tap my wife, I'm not touching her. Or right? So a very geschmacky case. Very geschmacky case. The wife, this is great, is snoring. Gewaldig. I know it's usually the other way, but the other way doesn't work. And the husband can't sleep. He's screaming at her. She's not waking up. Is he allowed? I'm reading you an email. Yeah. I'll tell you. You think your uncle. He's involved in a lot of these. He usually shakes her a little and she stops. She doesn't mind, parenthetically. During Yemei Niddah, is a husband allowed to use a book, whatever he has next to her, so to push her so she'll stop? That's a good case. That's a geschmacky case. So he writes, this is Negiah al yidei davar acher, which b'makom hatzorech yesh makom lahagel. Now, originally, I think Nachum Tov, when we spoke about this, I said, okay, makom hatzorech. What's makom hatzorech? Just call her. You have to tap her. I know what would you do if you're sitting in the cafeteria with a random woman? You figure out a way to get her attention. So your wife, the same thing. But this would be a good case that ulai there's a makom to be meko. And now, finally, when it comes to passing things, why is passing aser? Shemo yavo lidei. Touching. Why is passing aser? Because you might come to touch.
The tapping is not going to come to touch.
No, because you're doing something that's not that. Meaning that's the next level. You're right. That's the gezerah. I'm agreeing with you. And that's why it's aser. The makom hatzorech. If I'm tapping with something else, 100%. Now the question just is, how far does this shemo yavali day that you might come to touch her go? And the answer is, use a brain and don't come to touch her. Can you read a book together? Nostalgic, reading books. You don't read the mishpacha together that you just finished opening up a Isser because it was your Einik Shabbos on a Friday night. Can you read it together? So Rav Yaakov Netsky says no, you're not allowed to, and others say you're not. Lechachani says no, you're allowed to. Don't come to touch her. So that's the answer. I'm saying there's no Isser in reading the book. If I'm, let's read Shulchan Aruch together. Simin Chaf Aleph.
I have a raya.
Come, you have a raya? What's your raya?
Raya anti.
Why?
The Gemara says if someone lends you a book, you have to open it and read it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you can't read it with someone else because you guys are going to come to.
Yeah. 100%. That's where it's coming from. Because the normal thing when you come to read is Avada.
It's a turn. So
she flips the page. Wait, I'm not up to that yet. Or vice versa. No, I wanted to see that. That's an ad. It's also no. That's why you're reading it. Okay, what should I tell you? So inachanami. That's where it comes from. But lamaisa, there would be a makam. Can you go under one umbrella? Can you go under one umbrella? With this, we'll conclude. Can you go under one umbrella? So again, there's no iser be'etzem. The example that
I think that's
okay.
So why passing a broom